How's it going, everybody? Welcome into Lutties-lookback episode 11. My name is Nick Luttrell. Hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. I sure did, even though it wasn't a very successful weekend and last week for Razorback football and basketball. But nonetheless, we're going to unpack it in today's show, and we'll start it how we always do with my three big things from the Razorback football game on Saturday. A 28-21 loss to Missouri in the Battle Line rivalry. And the first point is the turnovers. And how many times have we talked about the turnovers on this show? I feel like out of maybe half of the shows that I've done this year, I've talked about turnovers and how they are costly. Again, over and over, turnovers prove costly. That's football for you, and that's been nothing new to the game of football, but it's just been a consistent issue with this Razorback team. When they lose the turnover battle, they lose the game, except for the Louisiana Tech game, which I think they lost the turnover battle in. That was the only outlier this season with the turnover battle. Arkansas has lost the turnover battle, and they lose the game. 2 turnovers on Saturday for the Razorbacks. Missouri only turned it over, 0 times. So that's an issue too. Like, we can say everything we want about the defense, and they deserve the credit this season, but they got to create some more turnovers too. It's been a while since they've caused a turnover, and it was a snow game. It was a snow game. Arkansas fumbled the ball 3 times. Missouri protected the ball, did what the Razorbacks couldn't, and that's why they were the winner and the champion of the Battle Line rivalry for, I don't know, the 3rd or 4th year in a row. It's been a while since the Razorbacks have won that game. And for Arkansas, their turnovers, it led to Missouri's 2 touchdowns. You know, Missouri won this game by a touchdown, and then 2 touchdowns coming off of turnovers. So that's, if you take out those, Arkansas wins by a touchdown. So that should tell you what it's like when I say turnovers were costly. And it's not something that is just in this game. It's been something that's been going on for the entire season. And that goes into my next point. Same story, different year for the Razorbacks. It happens every single year, and that's what makes it so frustrating to be a fan. I'm sure you guys watching these games just pulling out your hair because the same thing seems to happen every single season for this Razorback squad, except for the 2021 outlier. That's the only year in a Sam Pittman tenure where he's had success. He's won those rivalry games. But it's been turnovers, it's been close games where they're right there, and they look like a team that is competitive with the big names, and maybe not Missouri, but even look at last year when they had competitive games with an Alabama or an LSU, and maybe an Ole Miss last year, I guess, a little bit. But this year, it was very similar. Again, the outlier being Ole Miss, that was a blowout. But all these other games have been close, and it comes down to the final play, and it's just heartbreaking. And so it's frustrating to watch as a fan. It's the same things happening over and over, especially with the turnovers throughout the Sam Pittman tenure. It's been turnovers, and it's been close games at that. But speaking of just this season, that leads into my third point. Preseason expectations, in my opinion, they were met. And it might be seen as a little bit of a hot take, and I understand that, but you have to look at this from a perspective of what did most people think Arkansas was going to do leading into the season. Preseason, the over-under was set at 5.5 wins. Arkansas technically overachieved. I'm saying they met expectations, but you could even make the case that they over-exceeded expectations because they had the 6 wins, and that was more than whatever the Vegas people thought they were going to win. They got 6 wins. They're going to be going to a bowl game. And I think you gotta, it's hard for me to be an optimist at this point, because they're 6-6, and it's just a heartbreaking loss that you're coming off of against Missouri. But to be an optimist, you got 6 wins. You're going to a bowl game. You didn't do that last year. You only had 4 wins last year. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, they kind of exceeded expectations. Not many thought they were going to a bowl game. I did. I thought they were going to go 6-6, but it didn't pan out the way I think a lot of fans hoped it would. And I think the frustrating part about going 6-6 is that you saw how good this team is this year, and you're like, that could be a 7-8 win team because of the talent they have on the team. They could have taken down some opponents, and they could be ranked right now. But they aren't, because they can't close out close games, and especially close games when they don't win the turnover battle. So that was certainly the problem. But again, to be an optimist, they fought hard all year. That was something I noticed that was different from last year. This team never quit. I don't think Sam Pittman it has lost the locker room, at least in my interpretation of what I'm seeing when, briefly talking to the players and coaches and other media and fans. I feel like he hasn't lost the locker room. And if he had lost the locker room, then that would be a problem, and I would be calling for him to, be fired. I'm not really for sure ready to do that yet. I kind of keep going back and forth on this, and I don't know. I just feel like we have to sit with this for another year, and it's frustrating. But to be an optimist, they won 6 games. They're going to a bowl game, and you never know. Let's look at it on a little bit of an optimist going forward. So we'll see how the rest of the season progresses. But talking specifically about this Missouri game, the Battle Line rivalry, Coach Sam Pittman, he acknowledged that some of these problems, they happen a lot, and they happen over and over. And he talked about the turnovers as well in his post-game press conference.
I think it's happened 3 or 4 out of the 5 years when we're either close or have the lead, and I'm disappointed we didn't beat Missouri. I'm disappointed for our kids. I'm disappointed for the fans. Not disappointed in the effort, but in the execution with the 2 turnovers. It led to 2 scores, and they had 0. And it's hard to beat a top 25 team that way. It's very frustrating. I mean, we work ball security, every week and put an emphasis on it, and that's part of our keys to our ways we can win. And especially we knew today with the weather how it was, if whoever turns the ball over less is going to win, and that's kind of exactly what happened.
Yeah, and that's what happened. They turned it over more times than Missouri, and they lost the game. I think it is important, something he said there at the beginning. He said it was good effort, but bad execution. So I don't know what it takes to be a head coach, but it's good that you're having a good effort out there. It's good that the players are playing hard. That means it means something to him. When they wear the Razorback on their jersey, it means something to them playing for the Razorbacks. They're going to put in the effort. But when you have execution issues, then that comes down also to the head coach. And I think there's a problem with that going forward. But again, I'm a little bit wishy-washy on my opinions, as you probably can hear, on do I love Sam Pittman? No. Do I hate him? No, not at all. But he's just kind of in that middle zone where I just keep going back and forth. I'm not really sure about it. So that's tough. One thing to think about for the future, Hog fans, kind of looking at this. Obviously, they'll have a bowl game coming up. I'll give you those projections of which bowl they'll be in later. But one thing to remember, a lot of guys are going to transfer. So just be prepared for that. Probably by the time you're watching this and by the end of the day, Monday, there's probably going to be a few guys that have already entered the transfer portal, because that's just how it is these days. And it's going to be guys that are like, okay, I didn't really know that guy that much. Maybe it's a backup tight end. But there's also going to be guys like, man, that guy transferred. I wish he would stay. That's college football as we know it these days. So just be prepared for that. The bowl game, there's probably going to be like half the starters that won't play, that are going to transfer. Half the starters on offense and defense. It's just what happens, especially when you're a team that goes 6-6. So that's my thoughts on Arkansas football. Let's move on to Razorback basketball now. Thanksgiving Day, the turkey throwdown game. Arkansas falls 90-77. Really a disappointing game. Biggest issue with this, the defense, the 3-point defense specifically. Illinois shot almost 50% from beyond the arc, and I'm still trying to figure out, is Illinois like really, really good, or are they just okay? And Arkansas had a bad day. We'll know for sure in a few months when they go through Big 12 play or Big 10 play, and Arkansas goes through SEC play. Maybe they meet again in March Madness. So I don't know exactly how good the Fighting Illini are, but I know that Arkansas's defense has to improve, which is interesting because that's been their strength all season long, has been defense. And then this game, they put up 77 points, which is decent, and they make some three-pointers in the second half. They keep cutting down the lead, they're cutting down the deficit to 9 points or 8 points, and they get right there in the second half. And then Illinois makes a 3, and they go back up by 15. That was the story of the game, specifically in the second half. Adu Thiero was good in this game. He wasn't great. I mean, he had 26 points, as you can see behind me, but free throw shooting was an issue. He got to the line, which was good, but he was 12 for 21. 12 for 21, that's not a good ratio. You don't want to miss that many free throws, especially when you're such a good player like he is. So I hope they're working on free throws, because you got to make free throws. It's easy. free throws are easy. You got to be able to make those, especially when you're someone as good as Aduthiero is. So that's my take on Arkansas men's basketball. And Coach Calipari, here's what he had to say after the game on Thursday.
We worked on taking away three. We didn't do a very good job, did we? We left corners. We don't ever leave corners. I mean, literally left corners, and they made them. Again, you got to give them credit. They had great motion. They were creating switches. We didn't rotate fast enough, but there's a lot to learn from this. And I'll be honest, getting hit in the mouth like this, you got to play a certain way, and it's winning basketball. We didn't create enough threes because we didn't find people, because we're trying to do it ourselves, and there were opportunities. But when I watch the tape, I'll have a better idea.
All right, so again, it's so early in the season, so nothing to freak out too much about with this men's basketball team. So Arkansas will certainly be okay. Next up, tomorrow night, actually, it turns around pretty quick. They go to Miami to play in the SEC ACC Challenge, a Hurricanes team that has lost 4 in a row, including over the weekend to Charleston Southern. So Arkansas, it's not like a must-win. It's so early in the season, but it would be even though Miami hasn't shown to be very good early on in this year, it'd still be a road win and a Power 4 team on the road against an ACC team. So I think that's something that Arkansas needs to do and needs to take advantage of. So we'll keep an eye on that one and see how the Razorbacks continue to do, especially against that game against Miami. Let's go back, though, for this weekend, and let's go back to football now. Tough weekend all around, but maybe most surprising was Arkansas State. They fall to Old Dominion 40-32. Old Dominion was a team that came into the game with 3 wins. They get their 4th win of the season against A-State. It was not a good game for Arkansas State. The good, okay, I'll give you the good first and then the bad, because it was a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, and sometimes they've played that this season. The good was offensively. Jalen Raynor had another good game, almost 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Wallace rushed for almost 100 touchdowns. Corey Rucker has been that guy for Jalen Raynor this year. He had 115 receiving yards and a touchdown, but obviously not good enough to get the win. And the biggest issue for the offense was the 2 turnovers that they had, the fumble and then the Raynor interception in that game against ODU. The bad, so that was the good, and then a little bit of the bad with the offense. But the offense, I don't think is to blame. I think it's the defense for this Arkansas State team, and it's a struggle that they've been struggling with all season long. It's the rush defense. They give up 400-plus yards rushing against an ODU team that is not very good. And currently, the Red Wolves rank 130th out of 133 teams in rush defense in college football. That's pretty bad. And they're headed to a bowl game, and we'll find out where they're headed a week from now. But not too promising when you have your rush defense that's one of the very last in the country. So not great for Arkansas State, but to spin it back positively, it was senior night, so tough to get a loss on senior night. But head coach Butch Jones, he was hired to start the 2021 season. He's been here a few years. He's built up this program to be much better than it has been in recent years. So there's definitely positivity in the program. And after the game, Butch Jones talked about senior day and the senior class and the bowl opportunity that the Red Wolves would have. Here's what he had to say.
And I love our seniors. And they've meant so much to this football program. They took a leap of faith of coming here when nobody wanted to be a part of this thing, that nobody believed in it. And somebody asked me what's probably the best thing that you'll remember about the seniors. I think they've restored a pride of who we are and an ownership of what it means to be in this community and what it means to represent Arkansas State football. A lot to build upon. We still got one more game left. We still got an opportunity to win 8 games, which in college football in today's era is pretty good. You look at the college football playoff, there'll be a lot of teams that make the college football playoff with 3 losses. So they have the opportunity to send our seniors out with a win in a bowl game. That's something that I look forward to doing. And we got one more game to improve upon this and finish it off the right way.
All right, good to hear from Butch Jones as always there. We'll find out where A-State is going for their bowl game, like I said, a week from yesterday. Let's go to Harding now. The lone win, I feel like, out of our football teams that we cover here at THV11 over the weekend. The Bisons are advancing to the quarterfinals of the playoffs in the Division II ranks. They got a 44-26 win over 5th-ranked Grand Valley State over the weekend in the snow. You thought it was snowy in Columbia, Missouri. Add a few inches to what you thought looked like in Columbia. That was how much snow there was in Allendale, Michigan. Harding made the trip and just absolutely dominated. Only one passing attempt the entire game. Their quarterback, Cole Keelan, he was 0 for 1. And you would think, how do you win a game when you don't pass the ball but one time? That's the game that Harding plays, and they play it very effectively because rushing the ball, they dominated. Almost 500 yards rushing the football against a pretty good Grand Valley State. I mean, they're 5th in the country, so they got to be pretty good. Andrew Miller was the star for the Bisons. He rushed for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Flexbone offense worked really well, as it has and as it would in a snow game, so I think it helped. That was a little bit of a snow game for the Bisons against Grand Valley State. That helped them get the win, but they're no doubt worthy of the win. So, again, snow played a big factor in this one, and here's what head coach Paul Simmons had to say after the game about the snowy conditions.
I tell you, we heard a lot of talk all week about, how challenging it was going to be to come from Arkansas and come play in the snow, and could our boys handle that? But I don't know if this is true or not, but it's been said that the only animal that God made that turns his face and walks right into the storm is a bison, and I believe that, and I think our guys kind of showed that today. I'm just telling you, if you give our guys chaos, you give our guys bad situations, and they're going to show up. I mean, the toughness of our guys is really, really elite, and certainly it was new for us to play in this kind of situation. But I thought our guys were awesome. We're ready to play, and just really, really proud of this victory.
All right, some high school football action now from over the weekend. Friday night, there were so many great games. We didn't have a Friday night blitz. That was disappointing. I wish we could have had it and told you all the highlights, but we still had a little bit of a half blitz, let's call it, when I was out there in Columbia. But we're going to take a look at each of the brackets, at least in the Class 7A, 6A, 5A, and 2A. We'll start with the Class 7A, tell you what happened in the semifinals over the weekend. Bryant taking down Pulaski Academy 41-7, advancing to the championship, and Bentonville just easing past Conway 36-34 to make it to the championship game. This one this Friday night will be a good one between Bryant and Bentonville. I'd expect the Hornets to come out with the win. Let's go back real quick and talk about their big win over PA. They dominated from start to finish. I think a lot of people thought in this game, after the Bruins got the big win over the Purple Dogs the weekend prior, you thought maybe they would have a chance against the Bryant Hornets, but the Hornets just showed that they are, I mean, we knew that they were the team to beat, but after this game, it's like, who can take them down? Maybe Bentonville, maybe Conway. Conway put up a good fight with them in the first half. I don't know. It's going to be a really tough game for Bentonville to take down the Bryant Hornets because they've been dominating this year. They've been dominating, and I would expect them to dominate in the championship game. And let's talk about this other semifinal game. Conway, right there, Bentonville hit a game-winning field goal as the clocks hit 0. Very disappointing for the Wampus Cats. That doesn't mean it was a disappointing game in the way that they played, but just heartbreaking is the right word. Maybe not disappointing, because they played their butts off, and they deserved to be in this game with the rematch against the Hornets, but they were unable to. They played a really good game. It was nice that they had Grayson Wilson back. They had the big win over Rogers in the quarterfinals, and then they made it to the semifinal game but couldn't get past the Tigers. A really good Tigers team that is peaking at the right time. Tigers got their revenge from when the Wampus Cats beat them. I think that was week 1 earlier this season. So we've got Bentonville and Bryant for the Class 7A championship. That is what happened in the Class 7A over the weekend. Let's go to the Class 6A now. Tough look for our teams around the area. We only had Benton left in our semifinal matchup. Greenwood did what Greenwood does, absolute dominating fashion. Obviously, back-to-back shutouts in the playoffs is pretty impressive, especially for a Mountain home team that just scored 42 points on Catholic the week prior. Greenwood in dominating fashion. Again, kind of like Bryant, that's the team to beat. I don't know if anyone's going to beat them. I don't know if Shiloh can take them. I thought that Benton might be able to. So Greenwood advances to the championship in the Class 6A. They'll face off against the Saints of Shiloh. Benton, man, I really thought the Benton Panthers would have a better chance in this game to take down Shiloh and advance to the state championship. But tough look for them. They fall to the Shiloh Christian Saints 45-32. But no doubt, a really impressive season for the Benton Panthers, but they do fall in the semifinals. So Shiloh advances against Shiloh and Greenwood. I'd expect Greenwood to win in dominating fashion in the Class 6A. So that's 6A. Let's move on to 5A and tell you what happened over the weekend in the Class 5A. Again, dominating fashion. You can see kind of a trend here with all the big teams in the 1 seeds and kind of who's expected to win is doing their job so far. That's a little bit different than Class 2A, which we'll get to after this. But in the Class 5, 6, and 7A, the big dogs are doing what they're supposed to do. Parkview, again, winning a big one over Valley View, 44-14. They'll face Farmington, who takes down Lakeside in the semifinals. Another really close one. Lakeside up 10 points. I think it was 55-45. Less than 2 minutes left to go in the game. Farmington got an onside kick, scored a touchdown, would go on scoring another touchdown and winning the game. So a really tough look for a Lakeside team that I think needs to be applauded more than maybe any other team in the Class 5A and the accomplishment that they've made to get here to the semifinals. I wish I knew the stat for the last time they were this close to making to the state championship. I feel like it's been a little bit, and that's no disrespect to where the program's been at, but it hasn't been the greatest. A few years ago, they weren't the greatest football team in the world, and then Garen Rockwell comes in and he turns that program around, and so credit to what they've done. They had a tremendous season, pulling off the upset against Robinson, and then I really thought they were going to pull off the other upset against Farmington on the road and then possibly challenge Parkview for the championship. But tough loss there for the Rams, so it will be the Farmington Cardinals and the Little Rock Parkview Patriots in the Class 5A state championship. Again, my prediction, I would assume Parkview would win in dominating fashion, but you never know. They've had some, again, towards the end of the regular season, they had some games where you thought, oh, maybe they're not the juggernaut we thought they were. And then that's changed here in the playoffs. So if they play to their potential, no doubt Parkview should make easy work of Farmington. That's Class 5A. We're going to skip 4 and 3A and talk about those in a second, but we'll move on to the 2A here. Conway Christian continuing their dominating, undefeated season. They take down Junction City 25-21. They advance to face EPC in the state championship, the Class 2A state championship game. Conway Christian, they've just been dominating all season long. As I said, haven't lost this season. They got a quarterback who can pass the ball and can run the ball, who's been really good for them this season. Not only do they get this win over Desarg in the quarterfinals, but they get the win over Junction City, a really good Junction City team that beat the team that I thought was going to be the team to beat in the Class 2A was Carlisle. Carlisle gets upset by Junction City, and then the Eagles take down Junction City to advance to the state championship. So that's the state championship game we've got here. Honestly, I don't follow EPC too much. That's an impressive win there over Mount Ida, but we'll see what East Poinsett County can do if they can take down Conway Christian. I would give the slight edge to the Eagles in this game, but we'll see what happens this upcoming Friday night between both of these teams. That's a look at the Class 2A. Let's go back and look at the Class 3 and 4A. We don't got full brackets for those. It was quarterfinal action over the weekend between in the Class 3A and 4A. So here are your scores. Arkadelphia taking the win over Dardanelle 35-27. Southside beating Monticello 24-7. Mills, how about the Comets? They continue on their undefeated regular season and postseason with a comeback win over Warren 47-40. Malvern falling to Elkins 45-31. That is the Class 5A. In the semifinals this Friday night, Mills will be facing Elkins, and then they will be, whoever wins that game will play the winner of Arkadelphia and Southside. The 3A on the right side of your screen, Bismarck continuing to do great things in the 3A with a 28-17 win over Osceola. Boonville falling to Fordyce. How about the Redbugs with a 34-26 win? I think I heard somewhere that their starting quarterback was out for this game. I think he might be out for the season, so wish safe recovery to him. His name is escaping me, and I apologize. But really good freshman quarterback for the Redbugs. Didn't play, but Fordyce still gets the win, advances to the semifinals. Mansfield takes down Dumas 36-6, and Salem takes down Rivercrest 50-8. So in the 3A, the semifinals this upcoming weekend, Bismarck will play Fordyce, and whoever wins that game will face the winner of Mansfield and Salem. All right, let's go to the NFL now, checking in on some scores from over the weekend and from Thursday and Friday, because it was over Thanksgiving, so we had a little bit of different timing for the NFL games. But the Chiefs, how do they keep doing this, man? They do this every single weekend, and I act surprised. On Black Friday, they take down the Raiders 19-17. A little bit of a controversial call there at the end when the Raiders fumbled the ball, but they do get the win 19-17. I think they have one loss still. I think they still have one loss. I think they lost. Was it the Bills? Man, I can't even remember. But Chiefs still looking like the team to beat in the NFL right now. On the right side of your screen, the Texans taking down the Jaguars 23-20. Bottom left, Cowboys just getting past the Giants 27-20. And then the Rams taking down the Saints 21-14. That is a look at your NFL scores. Let's finish up, as we always do, with some other stuff going on around Arkansas, especially with the Razorbacks. We talked about men's basketball. Let's briefly talk about women's basketball. It's been a really slow start to the season for Mike Neighbors and company. In Florida, they had a tournament over the weekend, over kind of the Thanksgiving break. They lost both the games that they were playing. A 14-point loss to Oklahoma State, and then a 1-point loss to Bowling Green. You lose to Oklahoma State, it's Oklahoma State, but Bowling Green, that's a little embarrassing to lose to Bowling Green. I don't know how good their women's basketball program is, but Arkansas is an SEC program. You should not be losing these games to Bowling Green and to some of the smaller schools that they've lost to earlier this year. I can't remember their other loss, but not been the best of starts to the year for Arkansas. They're 4-5 is the women's basketball team. And for volleyball, also a disappointing way to end the year. They started the year ranked in the top 25. They now finished the year at 16-12. They lost their final 5 games of the season. And in those final 5 games, they only got 2 set wins. So not very promising for an Arkansas volleyball season that started out promising. But what is promising is a look ahead, and that's how we'll end the show, is with my Lutties look ahead. Some bold predictions for the Hogs. Let's take a look at what ESPN has. 2 of their analysts predict Arkansas. Well, it's a lot of Birmingham Bowl. I'll go ahead and tell you that. That pretty much summarizes it. ESPN, CBS Sports, and Athlon Sports all projecting Arkansas to go to the Birmingham Bowl. I believe that game is December 27th. I could be wrong. It's somewhere around that Christmas date, obviously, in Birmingham, Alabama. Got a couple different teams they could face off there within the ACC or against a good Memphis team. So we'll see which bowl team that Arkansas, or which bowl game that Arkansas has. We'll know that information again in next week's Lutties Look Back. We'll announce it and we'll talk about their opponent, break it all down for you. And then the other one, 24/7 Sports, picks Arkansas to go to the Texas Bowl against Texas Tech. So we'll see how all of that shakes out. But that is a look back, or excuse me, a look ahead at football. I'm going to look ahead at basketball. Arkansas taking on Miami tomorrow night, so that certainly should be an exciting game between both of those teams. Again, we'll keep you updated on football and everything that we know with that. Make sure you're following me and THV11 on Facebook and Twitter. This has been Lutties Look Back, episode 11. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.